Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video we're going to be looking at the last theme deck from Apocalypse, which is Whirlpool, which is a blue and red deck. Let's take a look at the deck list. So we have 21 creatures, 10 instants, 3 enchantments, 2 artifacts and 24 land, and we have a mana curve off to the side there. Let's just get on with it. So yeah, overall this one's pretty good. I think as a deck I would have been happy with this one. So we have 2 Bloodfire Dwarves, which is 1/1 for 1. Sacrifice it, does 1 damage to each creature without flying. And then you have 2 Bloodfire Kavoo, which is sort of basically double the Bloodfire Dwarf. 4 mana for a 2/2, and pay 1 red, sacrifice, does 2 damage to each creature. So it does then hit. It basically does Pyroclasm. These are both like really fine creatures. There was well, when we get to the what could have been, there was one up from them, like at the rare slot. Dwarven Patrol is kind of janky. It's 3 mana for a 4/2. Doesn't untap during your untap step, and whenever you play a non-red spell, you untap Dwarven Patrol. I wonder if this has janky combo potential, just because, you know, just because it has like a untap trigger. But yeah, this is kind of okay, I guess. It's not wonderful. And then Flametongue Kavoo, which is wonderful, one of the best red creatures I think ever printed. 4 mana for a 4/2 when it comes into play, does 4 damage to target creature, which would kill so much stuff. And then once it's killed something, then you have a pretty good attacker as well. So yeah, really like Flametongue Kavoo. Really happy that at least one of them is in this deck. So this is kind of the sort of the theme of the deck, is these whirlpool creatures. So it's weird. Apocalypse had like this this thing of like most of the colors had this kind of vertical cycle of creatures with the mechanics. So green had the penumbras, red had the bloodfires, and blue had the whirlpools. And I can't think off the top of my head what white and black would have had, but so all the whirlpool groups, so I think they all do something. No, they all do it the same way. So when they come into play, you shuffle the cards from your hand into your library, then you draw that many cards. You essentially just reset your hand, which is like kind of okay, I guess. Like if you've just got a hand of junk, I guess you can cast one of these and you get a whole new hand. So Whirlpool Rider does that while being a 1/1 Merfolk. Whirlpool Drake is a 2/2 flyer, but the ability triggers when it dies as well, which can potentially backfire if your opponent kills it without you wanting them to, and you're holding a good hand. And then Whirlpool Warrior is one of the rares of the deck, so it's a 2/2. It has it's the ability 1 red, sacrifice it. Each player shuffles shuffle their hand into their library and then draw that many cards. So you think they're like, oh no, my hand is garbage. Play one of these guys, shuffle everything, draw again. Possibly, it's very very gambly, luck based mechanic, but it's okay. It's a weird little gimmick. I think they're kind of charming, honestly, as they are. And then we just have a bunch of random blue creatures. So Coastal Drake is a 2/1 flyer for 3 with a very niche ability where it can return a Kavoo to its owner's hand. Not terrible in this because it can return Flametongue Kavoo, and that is a Kavoo worth returning to your hand, so you can keep casting Flametongue Kavoo. And you know, there is also the chance that, you know, you go up against someone who's got, I don't know, one of the better Kaboos, like Kavoo Chameleon or something. You can just bounce that all the time. But mostly, I think this is here to interact with Flametongue Kavoo. 2 Fairy Squadrons. It's just a 1/1 for 1. If you kick it, it has 2 +1/+1 counters and flying. So at best, it's 5 mana for a 3/3 flyer, which is fine. Metathran Transport is 3 mana for a 1/3 flyer. It can't be blocked by blue creatures, which is fine. That's almost then. Or I mean, that's almost like double evasion. Obviously, most things that can block flying have flying themselves and are blue, so this will be fine. But just if it wants to be really short, it once gets through, you can pay a blue to make target creature blue until end of turn. So your 1/3 flyer is almost unblockable. Don't know if that's worth it for a 1/3, but yeah. And then Rainbow Crow, 2 mana, 4 mana for a 2/2 flyer. Pay 1. It can become the color of your choice at the end of turn. Fine, I guess. Yeah. And then a bunch of blue and red spells. So Minotaur Illusionist, 5 mana for a 3/4 Minotaur. 1 cost 1 blue, it gets Shroud until end of turn, which is okay. 1 red, sacrifice it, does damage equal to its power target creature. So kind of expensive, really. Kind of all its parts together, put together, it is a little overcosted, I feel, for what it does. But I think it's fine. This definitely would have been one of the better Minotaurs of the time, because I don't know what it was about Magic the Gathering cards or sets, but like they were really determined to make Minotaurs like really rubbish. So they're always like overcosted or have weak abilities. But this one's okay. I mean, he's on the box cover art, so he's got to be okay, right? Just gaining Shroud is fine, and that kind of sacrifice ability would have been really nice if he could hit players with it. But doing 3 damage to another creature whenever you need him to is okay. 2 Razorfin Hunters, a Merfolk Goblin, which is always a joy to see on a creature type. 2 mana for a 1/1. He's basically Prodigal Sorcerer, but 1 less mana, but harder to cast, I guess, because of the 2 color requirement. It's really interesting that like under modern card design there is nothing blue about this card other than the creature type, because this is we saw coming up now to the transition period where like this ping ability is starting to move out of blue and starting to move more into red. I guess because design at the time it's like, why is this a blue ability? Why is dealing indirect damage a blue ability? It's starting to gently merge over to red. And then Suffocating Blast is one of the rares of the deck. So 1 color's 2 blue and a red, counter spell, and does 3 damage to target creature. So basically counter spell mixed with Lightning Strike or Volcanic Hammer or something. It's okay. Again, it would have been nice if this did it to players, but then actually no, it can't do it to players because then it overlaps with Undermine, which is the blue and black counter spell, which makes the player lose 3 life. So this is fine. It just does it to creatures. That's okay. And then a single Fire and Ice. Fire and Ice is perhaps the best split card. Out of all of them, not just in the set. I think printed, because both sides are very cheap and very good. There's a reason this card like has a lot of value. It goes for a lot of money. It's like on the secondary market, I think. It got upshifted into rare, I think, in Modern Horizons or a Horizons or Modern Master set. It's just super super good. So the fire side is instant speed, 2 damage. Divide as you choose amongst so it can kill 2 things, which is very good, being a 2-for-1. And then the ice side just taps a permanent, but you draw a card, and again for 2. It's very good. Yeah, would have been so nice to have multiple copies of that card in this deck, because it really is very good. It's one of the better cards, I think, out of the Apocalypse set, and arguably out of the whole block, out of the whole Invasion block, but I might be exaggerating. I just really like Fire and Ice. I think it's really good. And I was really happy it got reprinted in a dual deck like years later in the Is It versus Golgari one with like cool Is It art. I really like it. And then a bunch of other blue spells. So Confound, seeing this spell a lot, but it's pretty good. Counter target spell that targets 1 or more creatures, and you draw a card for 2. I think it's very good. Exclude counters a creature spell, and you draw a card, which is again like that's okay. Jilt. I really wish this got a reprint. I really like Jilt. So 2 mana to bounce a creature, and if you kick it for 1 cost 1 red, you do 2 damage to another creature. Which again is like pretty good. You get to bounce something and kill another creature. I think that's actually fairly decent, combining those 2 effects. 2 of those, which is nice. But yeah, I really wish this got reprinted, or not exactly reprinted, because Jilt is like kind of a weird name. Just give me a functional reprint. That'd be fine. And then Opt, which is just scry 1, draw a card, which is okay. And then what? We have Bloodfire Infusion. So this basically turns any creature you want into a Bloodfire creature. So like the Dwarf or the Kavoo, you pay a red, sacrifice it, and then the creature deals damage. Oh no, the Bloodfire Infusion deals damage equal to the enchanted creature's power to each creature, which is fine. 2 stuns. Target creature can block this turn, and you draw a card. That's fine, I guess. Scorching Lava. We've seen this a few times. It does 2 damage to a creature or player, and if you kick it, if a creature would die to it, it gets exiled instead. Chromatic Sphere, which is just some filtering. 2 Quicksilver Daggers. This is quite spicy. I like Quicksilver Dagger. So 1 colours, 1 blue, 1 red for an aura. Enchanted creature has tap, does 1 damage to target player. You draw a card. That's quite good. Basically, you turn a creature into Niv Mizzet, which is pretty strong. Being able to do indirect damage and get a card draw out of it as well is really, really good. This is like a pretty good aura to put on like one of your small utility creatures, so which maybe isn't going to be swinging at your opponent, but at least then it can stand back and tap and do damage and draw your card. So yeah, really, really good. Really like Quicksilver Dagger. So what could have been? Overall, again, I think this one is like pretty solid. I really like red blue as a color combination. I just wish I'm going to say strafe. This is in this. I think this is in plane shift. It's just a burn spell. I wish had been in some of these theme decks. So it's 1 red mana, sorcery spear. It does 3 damage to a non-red creature, which sadly I think makes it one of the better burn spells in the set. Not the set, the whole block, the invasion block. Just would have been nice to see that. Washout is just a really good bounce spell. I would have liked to have seen it in here. And then from Apocalypse, so Illuminate I think would have been fun in here, just because it has a blue kicker. It would have fit in kind of perfectly and nice. It would have been nice to show it off as having a one of these spells with a double kicker ability, which is quite interesting to have. So Illuminate, so it does X damage to target creature, so it's an okay like removal. If you pay the kicker cost, the red kicker cost, it does X damage to the creature's controller as well. And if you play the blue kicker cost, which is 4, you draw X cards. So it's potentially incredibly expensive because, like, at the minimum, if you paid the kicker cost, so that'd be 7. So 7 for the kicker cost, and then another red, and then say X is 1. So you'd pay 9 mana to do 1 damage to a creature, 1 damage to a creature controller, and draw 1 card. But obviously, you wouldn't pay both those kicker costs. You'd usually only pay just one of them. But drawing, I think, X cards or doing damage to the creature control as well, I think it would have been just like fine to have this, like maybe just one of these as a potential like finisher. And then for rares, so it had Suffocating Blast, it had Whirlpool Warrior. So Whirlpool Warrior I think is a little weak as a rare. I would have liked to see Bloodfire Colossus. 8 mana, he's just a big 6/6 giant, and his Bloodfire ability. I actually only just noticed this. The Bloodfire abilities affect more and more stuff. So the Bloodfire Dwarf affects only creatures without flying. Bloodfire Kavoo affects creatures. Bloodfire Colossus affects creatures and players. His Bloodfire ability is Inferno, which is, again, that could have been like a really good, strong finish. You just drop him down, and you could swing with him, maybe do 6 combat damage, and then pop him, do another 6. Just sweep the board and do a ton of damage. Yeah, would have been really nice to see Bloodfire Colossus. And Prophetic Bolt, again, could have been like a fun rare to have. It's 4 damage to a creature player. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. You choose 1, put it into your hand, and the rest go on the library. Prophetic Bolt, again, perfectly fine card. Suffocating Blast, I think, is okay as a rare. I think the thing with having like a counterspell being a rare, because counterspells I think really benefit from having them in multiples. I think having just one of them is it doesn't feel as exciting as like a big rare creature or a big rare spell like this. But that's just me. That's in terms of theme deck design. So overall, yeah, I do think this one's like pretty good. But I am kind of red-blue bias. I think most of the cards in it are pretty solid. Like the Whirlpool sub theme doesn't really. It's kind of just there. Nothing really, I think, interacts with it too well. So it's just kind of weird to have it. But a lot of the other cards I think are perfectly fine. So yeah, again, I would have been perfectly happy having this one, playing it out of the box. I say there's enough going on in it to make it feel kind of fun to play. But what did you think? Did you own this deck? Did you play it? Did you make changes to it? Stick a comment below. I'd really like to know. But yeah, so that is all the Apocalypse themed decks. So we're now done with Invasion block. So I'm going to move on now to the 7th edition theme decks, which is going to be one video just because they're smaller decks and they're full of simple cards. So we'll just fly through that, and then after that will be Odyssey block. So yeah, good. That'll be fun, won't it? But yeah, thank you for watching and listening. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.